now.
Okay. My name is Sophia Beverly, and I'm here speaking with.
Kimberly Cotton?
All right. Do I have permission to record you for this interview?
Yes.
Okay. Can you spell your name and as you would like to appear on the project?
Kimberly, Kimberly.
Okay. All right. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a 36-year-old mother of three. Um, I grew up in Jackson. I'm a nurse as occupation now. Um, I am married.
Okay.
Um, I don't know.
Okay. Tell me about how you grew up.
Um, I grew up in a single parent home, but my father was in my life. I guess you could say I went to his house on the weekends,
Okay.
and I stayed with my mother during the week.
Okay.
My grandparents had a lot of involvement in our lives because my mom worked a lot, so
Okay.
I was
So.
typically with my grandparents a lot of the time.
Okay. So grandma played a big part in your life because mom was at work most of the time?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So did you like going around grandma?
I did. I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, okay. Um, Describe a typical day from your childhood.
Um, I would wake up, do my morning routine, brush your teeth, get dressed, get dropped off at my grandparents' house. From my grandparents' house, I would either walk to school or get dropped off by my granddad, depending on the weather.
Okay.
Go to school, go through school, get from my when I get out of school, we would walk home, go to my grandparents' house, and we were typically there till about 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Okay. Tell me about your experience of becoming a mom, parent, caretaker, or supporter of a child.
I had my first child. He's 13. He'll be 14 next week. I had him in 2009. I became a single parent at that point by default, I would say, because his father got killed when I was pregnant. So
sorry to hear that.
yeah. So basically, I was a single parent by default.
Okay.
So I had him in 2009. I met my husband in 2011, or no, 2010, middle of probably 2010, and we had our second child November of 2012, and I had a third child January 2017.
January 2017. All right, all right. So I want to know who is your support system as you raise your children or care for your children? Can you describe what the support system is like?
It's much like mine, pretty much. If me or my husband can't provide what my kids need, we typically depend on my mother or my father. Not as much as my husband's mother or father, but my mother and my father. They typically play a big role in supporting my kids if I or my husband don't have it.
So you do have a good support system, but more, I say more like on your mom's side
That's
versus
correct.
on your kid's father's side.
That's correct.
Okay. Why do you think that's um, more so you get the support on your mother's side than your kid's father's side?
I think it's just, to be honest, like a generational, how we were brought up.
Okay.
A lot of people don't support men like they do women. I guess they take it. Some people think the men are supposed to be strong and they should be able to provide, and they don't get as much help as a woman.
Yeah, so people kind of like gravitate to the woman
Mm-hmm.
and help versus helping the guy because they're supposed to be the provider, the head of the household, and they're supposed to be strong.
That's correct.
And they should be able to, be the man that they need to be. Okay, okay. How do you compare the way you and the way your kids? I'm sorry. How do you compare the way you and or your raised or others raise their children today with the way you raise yours?
Um, that's funny. Because I say all the time the way I was raised and the way I raised my children. I was kind of gave a structured environment. Not saying that my kids don't have a structured environment. I'm just a little more laxed on them. They're a little more sheltered than I was. Being that I typically don't like my children to experience the things that I experienced in life. One being pretty much if I knew when my mom was probably late on a bill, or didn't have the money for a bill, or or was stressing about a bill. I try not to let my kids feel those things. In a way, I think I'm gonna say it's called the struggle. It made me who I am, but I was thinking about this the other day. I don't want my kids to struggle, but I don't want them not to know the struggle either. So it's like a give and take situation.
Okay, yeah. I could understand and see where you're coming from with that, because like you want your kids to have more and the best, versus when you was coming up, we basically had received the bare minimum, the needs versus the necessities and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say my mom provided the best she could with what she had, and just times are different. I provide the best I can with what I have. Okay. A lot of stuff that I go out on a limb and do. My mom, she didn't have those means to do it, so.
Okay. Can you paint a picture of the neighborhood you lived in for me?
I grew up in the projects. We're gonna call it. I grew up in Sunset Apartments. I stayed there until I was 17. We went from my grandmother's house to Sunset, so it was pretty much the projects. I mean,
so it's more like a big community, like
it's a apartment, a set of apartments, and it was about maybe I think the buildings went like A through G, okay, or something like that, and it was like A1, A2, A3, A4, and so on, B1, B2, B3, till you got to G. Okay. And it was just a community of it was a low income apartments, based on your income. And like I said, I stayed there until I was 17 when I left and went off to college.
Okay. So did you feel like you have like a good support system as neighbors, or most of the time your neighbors could be like close family? Did you feel that type of connection with neighbors?
We really didn't have family as neighbors, but my mom, she did become friends with a couple of our neighbors who tend to watch out for us. So to say, when we got older, my mom, when she went to work, she would leave us at home, and they would watch out for us, and make sure we got in the house from school, or didn't leave out the house once we got in the house, things of that nature. Make sure the house wasn't on fire and all, the typical stuff. But as far as my grandparents stayed like right around the corner from us, so if anything happened, they would just come over, and get us,
Gotcha. Okay. How do you think that the neighborhood you lived in affect your ability to raise your kids and or support the children in your community?
The neighborhood I grew up in, or the neighborhood I live in now?
I would say the neighborhood you grew up in.
My kids, they never stayed in a neighborhood of that type.
Okay.
We basically have stayed in apartments, but they weren't low income apartments. So to say, not saying that they were any different than the apartments that I stayed in growing up, but it was just I didn't really depend on people when we stayed in apartments. You can't really. I'm not gonna say you can't really trust people,
right.
but I kind of tend not to mix associations.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess since you brought the question up, like the neighborhood that they stay in now versus the neighborhood you lived in growing up, what would be the two difference or the comparison? The neighborhood you was raised in versus the neighborhood you have them staying in now.
Well, one, I don't stay in Jackson
Okay.
anymore. We don't stay in Jackson anymore. We stay in Ridgeland. Like I said, my kids don't stay in apartments. They stay in the house.
Okay.
All our neighbors are older. I think we have one little boy on the street, and my youngest son does play with him. But I had more friends growing up. My kids don't typically have any friends in that neighborhood per se. They only meet their friends when they go to school. It's not a lot of community involvement where I stay. People typically just mind their business. Yeah, so it's very different. Where I grew up, people hung out. On Saturdays we sat out. All the kids played together. Had a lot of friends. It's different.
Okay. What are some of the hopes for your children in your community?
I just I wish and hope that society will see where we're going. That if the world doesn't get it together, that I don't know. We're I don't know, and I can't, because crime has always been here. It just seems like it's getting younger and younger that they're doing crime.
Crime is basically everywhere, believe it or not. Some places they talks about it, some don't. But of course, in the surrounding Jackson area, it has got worse over the time. So
yeah, they're a lot more bolder.
Yeah, very bolder.
This generation that's coming up, they're a lot more bolder. I remember I used to do things, and I used to try to hide it, and I didn't want my parents to find out about it. Or and it could be something so small. But now these days, kids they're so prone to want things to be known and want to make a name for themselves, and and I think that's just causing the trouble. And I mean, the only difference I see is social media, because we didn't have social media then.
I was getting to ask you that. I was gonna say, do you think maybe because of social media now and everybody doing things to get their attention,
they want to be seen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I grew up, it was
we had bare minimum social media, probably maybe like
I didn't have any.
Was it
MySpace or something, and
Okay,
I was in high school
Yes.
when that came out, and I typically we had a time limit on our computer at home. When my mom finally did get us a computer, we got a desktop, and we had a time limit on the computer. We couldn't spend hours and hours and hours like my kids per se. The phone always in their face, or they're always on the game, talking to somebody or playing the game with somebody from God knows where. We just didn't do things like that.
So more so when y'all had social media or access to the internet, it was basically for like homework. Purpose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have social media to get on and all this other stuff that they have. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to add to this that I didn't ask about?
No, not really.
Okay. How do you think predict the parenting or caregiver will be raising children in the generation to come?
Like I think the generation to come, I think we're a little more relaxed on our kids. A typical parents are getting younger and younger, so they find it all right. If you see nothing wrong with it, of course you're not going to see anything that your kids are doing wrong. So I think it's getting a little more lax. They don't have much structure like we did per se. They're not harder on their kids like we are hard on.
In what way do you think that sharing your own story and ideas will benefit your children or the future generation more generally?
I hope that it would open their eyes to see that it's more than one way to parent. See that there are other situations that you could take into account, that what works for one may work for you. Just by listening, it may give somebody some ideas to kind of help them along the way.
Okay. Well, it is 7:02, and that will conclude our interview. I want to say thank you for taking the time out to allow me to interview you.
You're welcome.
And you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.